I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Tarik Moon, the CEO of Alpine. Tarik, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Ashton.
You're very welcome. Let's dive into the world of DeFi, continuing to grow at a rapid rate. However, there are millions and millions of people around the world who still aren't familiar with, never mind DeFi, cryptocurrencies as well. And we need platforms to get these guys more financial inclusion, more inclusion just in the world. And I know Alpine is doing a great job with the blockchain solutions that your team has been developing. So let's start off our conversation with just a little bit from you, Tarik, on what is Alpine, what blockchain solutions are you bringing to the space, and then we can dive into the details.
Yeah, 100%. And thanks for asking the question. So we're super excited. We are a team of experts that are building Alpine. And Alpine, at the core of it, is a savings protocol. So basically, it enables people to use some of the primitives that we're building and to use that to enable like next 100 million people to connect to the worlds of DeFi and remove necessarily the barrier to the unbank. So that's what we're trying to build. And just to get a little bit deeper into it, so if you have heard of general some of the decentralized finance protocols, what they enable people to do is remove some of the middlemen and some of the barriers, right? So we have seen in the past few years products such as the Compound, Aave, all of those that came out, and they are attracting billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars of assets into the space. And the reason is it really is making the whole process much more efficient, much more inclusive, much more seamless for end user to get loans. So I'll give you a very quick example. Personally, I wanted to get a loan for my personal expense and some of the other use. And to get it from the bank, it took me more than 2 weeks, even though I had all the paperwork ready, right? So just that kind of shows, whereas to get a loan like with collateral by my crypto from a crypto protocol, it took me 15 seconds to get it, right? Mm-hmm. So that kind of shows the power that this kind of product can provide. So ultimately, what we're trying to build in a very simple terms is we are a savings protocol. We allow people to have their money grow and have the money work for them. And that is completely powered by crypto. So that is what we're trying to achieve.
Incredible. Well, yeah, there's definitely a need for it. And you're right about Aave and Compound. They're bringing so much capital in. But I feel like there's some educational barriers or just there's just a gap between what people are used to in traditional finance and moving their funds into a new asset class. And there's still so many people that have yet to make that jump. Now, with Aave and Compound, personally, I've found that if you're somebody who's financially illiterate or not into finances, it's a bit of a daring jump to go into a full
100%.
Decentralized protocol where you govern your own funds, and if you press the wrong button, they might be gone, right? So how is Alpine improving on that to ensure the safety for people that are not familiar and not financially educated to the extent that they're going to control their own cryptocurrencies? How are you helping those people?
Yeah, I think that is a great point that you bring up, Ashton. And we believe that the main reason DeFi has not achieved its potential, one of the main, is just the UX or UI UX problem that we call it, right? So it's a user interface or user experience problem. As you kind of mentioned, you need to I don't want to badmouth any specific product, but we have seen various different crypto wallets, right? That we have to use. We have to manage your own private public key, and at some point it becomes so complex that unless you have a computer science degree and you understand what cryptography works, right? Like how to manage your key, you're probably not going to be able to do that, right? So you're very right that user experience is not ideal for the end user, right? That, just think of our parents or grandmas, can they use those products? 100% not. So that's where Alpine comes in, and we are really trying to use some of the more advanced, I would say, kind of almost a second generation of onboarding technology. For example, one thing that we use is you can connect your email address and still get a non-custodial wallet. So just in plain terms, you still have control of your fund, but it is connected to your email. So you don't have to manage the key, but you have to obviously secure your email, just similar to other product that you would use, like say, like a Coinbase or like any other exchange. So once you do that, and then the second part that we have also seen is things like, like you have to interact with some protocol. Now you have to go buy some specific token, like Ethereum. Like you have to use Ethereum. Solana, you have to use Solana token, or Polygon for Polygon, like Matic token, right? So those also creates a lot of friction for end user. So we are also introducing something on that we call gasless transaction. So we have already partnered with some of the technology vendors that help us to enable that, so that now that if you think about it, our product, while it's a completely decentralized under the hood, and also like it's a Web3 native product, but when you sign up with your email. You don't have to have your like own wallet necessarily, and don't have to manage your key. And then the second part is that you don't have to pay the gas necessarily in that native token. So it gets denominated in US dollar that you're going to put. And because we are using some of the advanced technology that I'm happy to touch more on, we can actually provide our end user with almost free transaction cost. So all of those three combined, right? Like whereas like some of the things that you mentioned that, like when you're doing it on Aave, on Ethereum, you have to probably pay hundreds of dollars of gas fee, right, to do those transactions, to deposit or withdraw. So by removing all of those barriers necessarily, we believe that we can adopt the next generation of, or rather like next wave of DeFi adoption. So one quick number that I will end you with, which sometimes surprises me quite a lot personally, given I'm in the space. But like if you think about like currently how many people have crypto, it's on the order of like several hundreds of millions are on the globe, right? We have like about like 6-7 billion people in Arc. So crypto still is obviously not saturated even, but if you think about like a DeFi adoption, there are only 4 million people or 4 million wallet addresses, because we don't know even how many people. So most likely there's on the order of like only 1 million people that are using DeFi right now. And DeFi has a huge runway to grow, right? But we believe that we need the right kind of product, right kind of user experience, right kind of pricing structure at the end of the day, right? Like, because we can't really expect people to pay hundreds of dollars in transaction fees to do DeFi, right? So with those three problems solved, we believe that with Alpine, we're trying to solve all of those three, and we believe that we'll be able to untap that market necessarily.
I like it, Tarik. And with first of all, you mentioned the user experience is super important, and then removing hexadecimal addresses to make it easy for usernames, and paying the gas is a huge one, especially for retail investors, people in emerging and developing countries as well, to have 100%. A transaction fee that's under $1 versus hundreds of dollars. Maybe it's a few cents, and if you're paying for it on top of that, that makes it even easier for people to get involved. And now I'm curious a little bit more on the main products that you're looking to drive in, because DeFi can have a lot of different products where, if you're having savings, as you mentioned, you can be earning interest on your coins, but it's also possible to take out loans and use it as collateral. And it's also possible to do swaps and liquidity provision and other advanced DeFi functions as well. Where is Alpine focusing most of its attention towards?
Right. So ultimately, we're building two building blocks, or primitives, if you will, right? So our first primitive that we're building is the savings product that is denominated in USDC, because that is the most easiest for most people to understand. Because you again, we don't want to compare with a bank, but if you go to a bank, for example, you deposit your money, you get an interest, right? So that is kind of the first primitive we're building, where you basically get an interest out of your USD or USDC, deposit in this protocol necessarily. And this is completely decentralized. And one of the main things that we are bringing is the fact that we're so transparent, because ultimately at the end of the day, and that's where we believe we are more powerful than many of the centralized incumbents, is that people can come in and they can really see where their money is going. So it's not going to some shady exchange or some third party or trader where you don't really know where your money is going, right? It's not a black box. It's completely transparent. So that's the first point I would mention. So that's the savings USDC denominated product, right, that I mentioned. And the second part is actually for the people who are maybe more crypto bullish. Maybe they want to hold some crypto, right? So that could be a savings vehicle as well. So we're basically building kind of a basket. We call it basket, right? So basically combine Bitcoin and Ethereum in some fashion and initially market cap weighted, and then you buy into that. So basically what that gives you is it gives you kind of like a broad market exposure. Again, we don't want to compare it with like a traditional finance because it's like a completely separate, different dynamic under the hood. It's almost like if you think it's like a S&P 500, right? Like it's like instead of buying S&P 5, like buying 500 different top US stocks and having to rebalance it every week or so on, right? Like you just buy into this like exchange fund. That's what we have seen in traditional finance. And that's what drove the adoption of users in traditional finance, right? So that's kind of the path we're taking, and we're making it super simple for people to save using those different like volatile, not exactly, I should say like a volatile, it's more like a unstable coins, right? That kind of assets as well. So those are the two primitives we're building. And the beauty of the whole system is that it gives people kind of like, they can be as hands-on as they want. They can like choose between how much allocation they want, and they can like, rebalance this every week or so on, or they could just depend on the kind of the DAO that can rebalance it for them as well, right? So those are also bringing a new layer of simplicity, if you will, for the end user.
That's great to know, and thank you for explaining that, Tarik. And now, for the customers that are using these products, you talk about getting the next 100 million people involved. I feel like in this day and age, there's a lot of people in emerging countries or countries that are under regimes where the currency isn't doing well, and they're starting to resort to cryptocurrencies to actually store their wealth because it's working better than their national currency. Are you seeing any trends, or are you focusing on certain emerging countries for the platform?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. So just to kind of like touch on that, like I say the great question like on genuinely, because that is one of the topic that is very dear to my heart. Because I have friends in some of those countries, like for example, I'll mention a couple of them, like in like a Turkey, Venezuela, or like we're seeing war in some of the parts of the world right now, right? Like Ukraine-Russia conflict, and yeah, like even both sides are being impacted, like a normal citizen of those countries, right? So in all of those cases, what we have seen is that there are big adoption of general like crypto in general. Like people are just like buying crypto because their currencies are underperforming severely, like the fiat traditional currencies, right? Like compared to crypto. So we do want to capture those, and that's where we believe like once we release our phase one, I think that's where we'll probably focus on some of those specific countries. So 100%, some of those countries are definitely in our radar. One thing I would also mention, which I kind of touched on, is our transaction cost is necessarily almost free. It's like, and the reason we can achieve that is that we use currently use Polygon blockchain, but we're also going into Solana. So both of the blockchain, as you know, are very fast, and the transaction costs are basically fractional cents, right? So that gives us a very, very powerful way to adopt the DeFi to various end user. And that's how we believe that we'll be able to win the market. Because ultimately what we're trying to build is almost like an abstraction layer, if you want to think about it. Like what we're saying is that you don't have to worry about which protocol or chain you want to put your money in. You put your money in Polygon or Solana, or on Alpine and Polygon or Solana, and that money gets moved across different chains and different protocols through the system that we're building. So that's a very, very powerful statement, we believe, for that option.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Tarik. And you mentioned there phase one. Let's talk about the future and the roadmap for Alpine and how you're continuing to grow. Can you talk about some of the milestones and what's coming up next for 2022 and what you hope to have out by the end of the year?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, like, as the development happens, obviously we cannot exactly put like exact data on it, but as we're thinking about it, as it is in our roadmap, we're thinking of launching our first public product sometime later this year. So currently we have a private product that was intended for our early adopters and investors and friends and family that we are using to do two things. One, we believe that security is going to be one of the most critical element. So we're trying to ensure, and we're actually getting formally audited by several security firms right now for this product. So like that's the first part that we're doing to kind of get people's feedback and test the security of the protocol and product. And the second thing is we're trying to also like really fine tune the user experience, right? Because we have talked about this user experience where we have this protocol under the hood, and then we have a product on top of it, right? So we have this web app that we have, but we also have this protocol, right? So just from that perspective, like we are trying to make sure we really nail those two. So that's why we are bringing the product to the public market sometimes very soon this year.
Great to know. And now looking further down the road, achieving your goals of getting in millions of new people into cryptocurrency, with the product launched, by the end of this year or later, and you're continuing to grow, what do you think the key factor to success will be in ensuring years from now that there are millions of people using Alpine and it is a success?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question, and that kind of keeps us obviously awake every day. Is like, like that's what we're kind of working towards. And I believe that ultimately we are a product that is user centric, right? Like we believe in making sure that the users are getting not only the best experience, but they're also getting the best price. And that's why we have, again, like this is like a very Web3 concept that might not be familiar with people outside, but we're really building a protocol under the hood that will be owned by the community, right? So the community will have the power to make sure that even if I, as what's called the CEO of this like wallet product necessarily, right, wanted to change the fee structure, I would not be able to without the community's buy-in necessarily, right? So I think that's a very, very powerful mechanism that will help us to get people's trust in a much better and faster way. The second thing that I want to mention is that ultimately, again, decentralized or not decentralized, it almost doesn't matter if we don't give the people the right experience that they want. If we don't give people what they want out of this DeFi products, we will not succeed, right? So I think that would be, again, I just want to be very frank and honest about it. Like we're a product that has not reached the public market yet, right? So I think being honest and humble about it and being like talking to our users and making sure we cater to them and they love the product is going to be our main priority in the next coming months as we launch.
Definitely. Well, I really like that answer, and I do agree. Having the community have a say and control through democratization, decentralized governance, I think is super important as it continues to grow out. And once the foundation is built, and understanding the customer needs, and then giving the customers what they want. I really do like that, Tarik. Now, for the viewers that are looking to get involved with the community early, as you mentioned, and follow up in the updates towards the phase 1 launch, what is the best way for them to learn more and to stay involved?
Yeah. So first of all, we have our website that is live with all the demos that our engineers, beautiful demos that they have created. So you can go to tryalpine.com. So TRYALPINE.com. And you can also follow us on Twitter, and you can follow us on Alpine DeFi. And my Twitter handle is Tarik Moon if you want to kind of, basically connect. Separately, we are going to, we have it on the website, we have a wait list. That's where we're getting our first users from. And just to kind of mention, on the record event, we have about more than 50,000 users who have already signed up. So we're super excited. That kind of shows that keeps us, so pumped about the product that so many people want it, right? So please sign up and, please follow us on Twitter. And if you have any question, please, any viewers can reach out to us via Twitter for now.
Amazing. That's great to hear about such a large list. I will leave the link to Try Alpine website and the Alpine socials as well in the description box below. Thank you so much, Tarik, for coming on to speak about Alpine. All the best with the continued growth of the platform, and let's follow up in the near future.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. Really a pleasure talking to you.